Every human being spends the first 9 months of their life underwater. It is the only way we can survive. But what happens next is shocking. With the planet made up of 71% water, you would think humans would have a strong relationship with it. Unfortunately, this is furthest from the truth. 54% of Americans can't swim well enough to save themselves. Drowning is the leading cause of death in kids 1 to 4 years old. The fear of the water among children and adults is staggering. But there is someone that believes that learning how to swim can be made easy and it could be fun. This is Swim On.
I thought I was dying. I really did. And I hadn't really been in the water since then.
I can't swim, and I'd probably put my son in more danger.
When I went under the water, I started drowning.
I wasn't really ready to swim because my dad kind of jumped. Hey, Gray, you want to swim?
I had some friends who were afraid, and when I was little and we would go to the pool, they would just not want to get in the water because they were scared of drowning.
In a swim facility just outside of Washington, D.C., Lorenzo Williams starts a 9-week course on learning how to swim. First up, 7-year-old Chastity.
Hand and push the ball over just like that, but just push with one hand and then push with the other. Go. No, just push. I'm gonna hold one of the balls. Go. Push. 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 Push.
My experience was very cool, fun, and awesome that I enjoyed myself.
All right, now turn around and let's push it back in the opposite direction. Nice, you can. Turn. Water has its way of working with you in so many different ways because it can bring out and let you know that there are things that, well, they're not in water, but you still can do it because if you can go through that kind of stuff, you can do, whatever you have to do, on land.
Lorenzo's unique teaching techniques creates a fun but effective learning environment. The use of foam barbells and rubber balls give an added sense of security while promoting proper form in the water.
One of the good feelings I had, especially working with the students we had in this group, was Chastity. When at the beginning she started off very scared and very nervous, and you had to kind of build her. You had to do that. You had to have the process where you build trust with her, and she understands that you're there. You're not going to let anything happen to her, and then she starts to have fun. And kids are great to watch when you see them actually forget themselves for a minute and just learn to have fun in the water, and they don't realize they're learning.
My favorite game was the balls that you get to get the ball where you get to put them in the net.
boy, does she start to learn to have fun after a certain point. When she gets those balls and she starts pushing them in, and she finds a system and she pushes it. It's just, it's good to see.
I move them, push them to the end, so I can just throw them in the net. Then I come back and get more balls, and then when the balls are all gone, we can play another game that's so fun.
All parents should try to get their kids to swim, because, you know, when you have the sort of serious levels of, you know, childhood obesity and diabetes in this country right now, this cutting of physical education programs, you know, you can just play in the water for a half hour, and that's pretty good in terms of exercise, just out of just sheer water resistance. You don't need to be, you know, doing competitive laps. It's a pretty good workout right there, so.
I learned how to swim when I was playing that game, and I just worked hard and hard and hard until I get it and know how to swim.
Okay?
I can't do it.
Oh! Now we're gonna try some. Come on over here, Alexander. Girls, I want you to go a little bit more. Okay. Okay. There you go. Swimming is not one of those things that you can just pick up by looking at. You have to do it. And that's the only way you're going to get it done. Remember what you did as a child. Bring that up to now, even though you're an adult, and deal with them and talk to them that way. They will understand it every time. And then when they start seeing the fun that can be had, this is great.
Not to be outdone, Chastity's older brother, Damari, is in on the action too. Damari does kicking drills with Lorenzo.
That's why we're there. You can always keep your head back. We're just going to tap you in the head and stop you. So we're not going to let you run into anything, all right? All right, let's do it again. But this time, lay flat like you're laying in your bed, okay? Head back. Keep your back toes touch. Go.
At the beginning, the first day, I was like shaking at the first day. I was so nervous. I didn't even know what to do. Then, once I got in the water, my fears and stuff, they started to go away.
Lorenzo's use of swim fins during his lessons is one of many unique approaches he takes towards the development of his students' water skills.
When Lorenzo was first using fins and noticed that their motor skills were improving, they had already started to increase their mobility in the water and their ability to just find their bearing in the water. It got their body position correct, and also by them being able to move further, faster, it had a psychological effect where they felt more capable. They felt like, okay, I'm actually moving in the water. I can do this. It had a synergistic effect.
The long fins they helped me a lot. With the short fins, they gave you to work harder and really push your feet.
When I started, working at this one swimming facility, basically what happened was they had all of these small fins that no one used. I looked over and I said, I know what to do. Stay flat. Stay flat. Stay flat, okay?
I can't stay flat.
Yes, you can. What you doing? All you gotta do is look. Watch him. This part of your middle part is you're doing like this. Look at me. You're bent. You don't want to be bent. You want to be.
One of the techniques that he used to tell me was to always keep your chin under the water and to always not to be so nervous, like to think of something, to just relax and learn to swim.
Every line facing out, just the face. Backhand face.
They have a lot of strategies and a lot of techniques in the games to make it seem fun, but you're really like learning something and interacting with the water.
Okay, can I trust you this time to do it without it? Huh? I'll stand beside you. I'll walk down beside you. All right, arms straight. Remember, every line facing you go. Arms straight, arms straight. Good. I got it. One thing you never want to do is tell a child, let's go to the deep end. Never say that. You always say, let's go to that end. Because chances are somehow or another someone has said something bad about the deep end. But you always want to make them have fun. Once they start having fun, they can forget about, the depth of the water. So it's a real fun method.
Fear is a funny thing. It can paralyze you from doing something, but at the same time, it can push you to do things you've never dreamed of. When dealing with fear, you have two choices: turn around and run the other way, or walk cautiously towards it. In Lorenzo's swimming class, he teaches you to stare fear in its eyes and ask, "Really? This is all you got?"
Why I started swimming, my son was in swimming class with Lorenzo, and Lorenzo asked me if I, as a parent, knew how to swim. And I told him no. And he asked if my son was ever in a pool or in water and got in trouble, would I personally jump in? Or what would I do? And my first thought would be, yeah, I would jump in, not knowing that I knew how to swim, but I would jump in. And then it dawned on me that me jumping in wasn't going to solve anything. Actually, it was going to make matters worse because I can't swim and I'd probably put my son in more danger. So that moment, it dawned on me that I need to learn how to swim myself.
it's never too late to learn to swim. I think, for some people, the baggage of never having known before, it just seems like something too hard, too new, and it's like, oh, I'll never learn, or what am I gonna use that for? I don't buy that it's ever too late, or you're ever too old, or you just can't. It's swimming is 99% mental. I mean, it's once you have the belief that you can, you will.
Partner? Out of the water, out of the water.
In the water, in the water, in the water. Ready? Go.
When I actually started taking lessons from Lorenzo, the main thing that I learned was the comfort level and being comfortable in the water, and being able to, through the techniques that he taught me, at least I know that I feel that I could survive if I ever got in trouble, and I could help somebody else by either getting an object to help them to safety as opposed to putting myself at risk with somebody who can't swim.
Like father, like son. Or is it the other way around? Nevertheless, Gray decides not to wait for his father to learn how to swim to save him. Instead, he is learning to save himself.
I wasn't scared to go in the water. I was kind of enthusiastic, but I wasn't really ready to swim because my dad kind of jumped. Hey, Gray, you want to swim? And then I'm like, okay.
If my arms are like that, that's all right. But you notice how I reach like that, my shoulders didn't go forward? Do that, huh? When you feel that tug, then you're all right.
Lorenzo made me feel very comfortable in the water. He told me, keep going, you're doing it okay, so I just kept going, and then I finally mastered that skill.
Proud of me. Make sure, yeah. Put the head back, but also touch the chest. A little bit of your chest, okay? Yeah, you adjusted. Yeah. So just.
I feel comfortable now that I know how to float in the water, and I've got a couple strokes down that I feel very comfortable with. The fins, clearly, I'm still have a big affinity to the fins. I think they were a great technique or a tool for me in helping me be able to navigate through the water with ease and feeling more comfortable with it. The floating devices, knowing that if I've got these floating devices like the barbells and some of the other devices, that I will float, and so I don't have to worry about sinking in the pool, were key. And then the, I can't remember the apparatus that you use to help you breathe. The snorkel, that piece was tremendous help for me in terms of learning how to get my breathing techniques down. So those were very helpful.
Okay. It'll help one on top of the other.
Okay.
Back, put your thumb right around there. That way it doesn't go no place. All right, ready? And go.
Father and son, both striving to achieve personal greatness, both determined to let nothing stand in their way of their ultimate goal, to swim with mastery.
One thing that's actually special about the method that Lorenzo's developed is that I know that it is probably the best way to try to teach someone who is older, who has not ever learned to swim before, because the motor skills are there in a way that maybe a young child might not have. It gets their legs moving in such a way where it gets them over that first hurdle, where they're able to move in the water in such a way that they actually feel like they're able to swim.
In terms of, as an adult learning to swim versus watching my son learning how to swim, as an adult, we build in from life experiences, so there's certain fears, things that we as an adult are a little bit smarter about, and so we're not going to put ourselves in jeopardy as much, whereas kids are a little bit more free-willed, and they're more open to new things, whereas an adult, you become hesitant because I know what can happen if I don't do this right. I could drown, I could kill myself, so you tend to, as an adult, shy away or put up walls and block yourself from doing things you're not comfortable doing. Whereas children, they're open, they're willing to try new things, and as an adult, I really wasn't necessarily, I wanted to learn, but there was a lot more fear and in terms of what could happen in the water. And so being comfortable with the techniques and instructions that I was given was very important to me. And I think Lorenzo was very key in making me feel comfortable in the water. And that came from personal experience with him as well as watching him with the children. I felt, well, if he can do that with a child, then clearly that's something that I can learn from. And I just made myself a little bit more comfortable, more relaxed when it came to the instructions, because I knew he wasn't gonna let me drown.
What you want to do is you don't want your feet going. Just like that. That's what you do. You want a longer, your feet should come far apart. Now, sneaking in.
Now, where am I kicking from? Here or here? Here?
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit, don't get me wrong, in the knee, but there shouldn't be. It's all right here.
But I really liked it when you passed around the torpedoes. The passing of the torpedo, he said that we could only pass the torpedo when we were underwater. So we had to learn how to hold our breath. And then also when we got closer into like the deep end, we kind of had to do like a tread of water. And we were treading water while we were kind of passing the torpedo around. So that was more of a game. And I found it fun more than just learning.
The torpedo game is one of the most popular among Lorenzo's students and one of the most effective. Both kids and adults find themselves letting go of all inhibitions of the water and allow themselves to swim like the fish of the sea. It's all about having fun in Lorenzo's swimming class. Fun, comfort, and safety are the priorities in his course. Without it, there's no foundation for learning, no foundation for exploration and adventure, and no foundation to overtake your fears. There's nothing like a little sibling rivalry, especially when it's sisters. Meet Micheline and Katiana.
It was very intense and very hands-on. Like, as soon as you got there, you were in the water and you were, you had to just do the moves to swim. So It can be intimidating, but you should always feel safe because, I mean, they had lifeguards. I mean, Lorenzo was there, Guillaume, and another person. So, it was pretty safe, but you get in the water and you have to do the stuff.
All right, ready?
Well, actually, I heard about it through my sister, and I thought it was a great idea because I've always wanted to learn how to swim. I felt ashamed I'm like that old and I still don't know how to swim, and water terrifies me, and nobody wants to stay in the shallow end, and like everybody just goes into the deep end and they're like, come over, even I'll be with you, but that's like, no, that doesn't help. But I was hoping to get into the class. I kind of watched the first class and I was excited that they just throw you right in there instead of just like talking about it. I'm more of a doer than a talker, so it was great.
One of the surprises were Micheline and Katiana. I was surprised she actually, her and her sister, but her sister was even more surprising than her, but they actually picked up so quickly. Like almost the first day, there was very little fear in them in terms of like, you didn't see the sort of hesitancy in their body positioning. They did what was asked, and they did what they were told, and they swam very well for people who had never actually never done lessons before.
So just knowing that, we were all learning together and we had all these tools, and it wasn't, in an environment where, you have somebody who's, better and somebody who's worse. We're all learning at the same pace. We're learning at the same time. You swam the entire class. So if the class was an hour, the entire hour you were swimming, you were in the water, no breaks. And we have the tubes, the floating tubes were my favorite because I just latch onto them, for dear life, I'm just holding on to them.
All right, you guys want to do something? It'll be fun. Huh? Come on now, I know y'all want to do something fun. All right, guess what? I'm going to put these balls over here. I do not want your feet touching the bottom at all. You're going to swim over here, grab a ball, and you're going to take it back and put it in the goal, okay? Got it? But listen, like I said, your feet should not touch the bottom. I want your feet up the whole time and kicking. So that means you're going to be swimming over here, get 4 balls, put them in the goal, swim back 4 more. Ready? Go!
Maybe they don't quite realize how well they were doing in the class, because it's part of that psychological aspect where, oh, I'm new, I don't know. It wasn't even so much instructing with them, it was really more letting them know that they can do it and telling them to do it, and they would just do it, and they did it very well. And they almost kind of were surprised, like, oh, that's it.
encourage everybody to do this. And one thing that I would tell them to make them feel safe, and say that you would have someone right next to you the entire time. I think that's one of people's biggest fears, is that, they would get in the water, and if they were to drown, no one would be able to get to them quick enough to help them from drowning. So one of the things I'd probably tell them is that you have someone right next to you every time you have to go into the deep, or if you're going to be swimming without fins or the smaller fins. I was like, I play it up in my head more than, I make it more stressful than it actually is. So I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna look a mess, and there's certain times where, Lorenzo will say, okay, so we're gonna do this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. And he's like, no, you're fine, you'll be fine. And it's just like, it kind of offset my over nervous attitude and anxious attitude to everything by him just saying, it's fine, you'll be fine. It's more than just learning how to swim. It's actually pushing yourself to do something that I think most people are afraid to do. A lot of people are afraid of water. So it's conquering a fear. So you're learning how to swim and you're conquering something that might be a fear to you.
After every Saturday, I became more enthusiastic to learn how to swim and to just enjoy myself.
I would say go to Coach Lorenzo, and he will teach you everything. And never stop, because even if it's hard in the beginning, you will get better.
Typically in an African American community, somehow or another, someone who's drowned. It may be someone in your family. So they were always told, stay away from the water, because since there weren't lessons, that's what they were told. But then when lessons came about, I used to have to coach, a lot of the parents and let them know that it wasn't a fact about, as soon as the child got up on top of the water, when they was able to move, 2 or 3 feet, that they could swim. That wasn't it. Swimming was a constant thing. It's unlike basketball, football, baseball, soccer, or anything. You always have to stay on top of that. One compliment that I always take to, I love this one. One of the kids' grandmother was visiting from Alabama, older black lady. She was a teacher. She said to me, she said, I have never seen teaching like this. This is great.
If one of my friends asked me about swimming and learning how to swim, I would definitely advise them to swim, using Lorenzo's method specifically.
Well, I think every person should learn how to swim. Because it's just from sheer safety. You never know where you're going to be or when you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to learn how to swim or have to save yourself. We have incidents, you can check the paper, the news, literally, especially during the summertime, you're hearing about people drowning all the time. And most of the time they're children, but in the last couple of years I've heard a lot of adults who've drowned. And it's, what happened? Either they were out fishing and the boat capsized, or they were doing X. And it's one of the things where you don't want to be in a situation where you cannot save yourself. And so I think when you just look into sheer safety factors, it's definitely something that we need to make sure that everybody learns how to swim. I think it should be a curriculum at every school or every process that kids go through, and even adults who don't know how to swim need to go and learn how to swim.
It's been many instances where I've heard about, where someone's life has been saved, and there are a couple others right off the bat. I don't even remember off the bat, but those come to mind pretty quick. But as a person who had almost drowned himself, I'm happy to hit at any time.
In the world of swimming, anything is possible. It starts with a thought to do what seems to be impossible. Usually, when we are faced with that challenge, we go the other way. In Lorenzo Williams' swim class, there is only one way to go. There is a freedom to returning to our roots of origin, the water. There's a familiarity and a comfort that we don't quite understand, but somehow it feels right to us. If only more people gave the opportunity to discover this a chance. Meanwhile, the students of Lorenzo's swim class continue to embrace their fears and their newfound freedom. They choose to continue to swim on.